tweaked it out. You said, good teams win this game, great teams dominate this type of game. What's it going to take for this group to get to that next level? I mean, you've been around a lot of good teams, championship teams. What's that take to get to that level?
I don't know if it was Memphis, but I think you're talking about a San Antonio game. We had a San Antonio game here.
There's a couple of them, I think, but
Well, I'll give you a great example. We had a San Antonio game here this year, and clearly San Antonio is not a good team, but they have good players, and we definitely don't take that away from them. But this year they weren't a good team, and we won that game, I believe, by like 2 or 3. And when we got in the locker room, and just from my perspective, and being on teams that dominate during the season, I didn't like our attitude and the way that we were just happy with that win. And I said something, and some guys said things back, but that's what teams do. We communicate, and especially as men, we communicate responsibly, and we get our points across. But I had said that I didn't feel like we should be happy with this win. Even though we beat San Antonio, we beat them by 3, and I felt like we have a group of guys and a conglomerate of guys that are way better than that. Because I've been on teams, if we're playing a team who has 15 wins after All-Star break, we're blowing them out by 30, and that whole fourth quarter, none of the starters should be playing. So I feel like we had that caliber of team, and I feel like that's the next step for this team is when we play teams that aren't that are under 500 and aren't going to make the playoffs. We have to dominate those games because those games count at the end of the season, as we see. Because we definitely lost to a couple of teams that were under 500 that we shouldn't have. But we definitely had a bad rep for playing down to our competition. But we also played up to our competition, and that last step will be just staying at this level, no matter who we play.
JaVale, I wanted to ask you this question most of the season. When your personal work alongside your professionalism, the documentary that you did on one of the G League players, will you be doing projects like that in the future? Because I think those type of things stand out in the community and people don't understand people being as human beings as they are athletes and what they're trying to do, and they're trying to nurture the next generation, whether they're going to play the game or not. And I think from what I saw and then listened to some of those interviews, I think you were trying to point that out. Will you be doing more projects like that, impactful projects like that?
Absolutely. I'm big on the media side. I've always been that way, and I definitely like the aspect of being able to show people's lives that they really don't. I don't want to say care about, because I feel like when you watch the NBA, all you care about is the guys that are playing. You don't care about the guys that used to play. Those guys get forgotten about. But yeah, my little documentary that I did on my YouTube was definitely about a G League player. He was my teammate in college. But it really showed the behind the scenes of the AAU circuit and how these kids are coming up and their role models, and I feel like it's a perspective that we never really get to see. So I definitely plan on doing more things different perspectives that everybody isn't doing.
And just I don't think I touched upon it, but what made you want to get into that area, to do something like on that type of subject? Because I personally, I think there should be more things like that. I've been thinking about it myself, but that's another story. But what made you get into it that these type of stories need to be told?
I've always been this way to where I wanted to produce things. I've always been a producer, music producer, video producer, movie producer. I've always produced things. So when the opportunity came to me, and I seen the footage that was already shot, I felt like there was something that people need to see. I felt like my platform would have been was a great way to put it in the forefront. So that's the reason I did it. That's the reason I like doing things like that, just because I like showing different perspectives of things that people usually don't see or seem to care about, and I feel like they should.
So you're a filmmaker.
There it is, right there.
Nice.
JaVale, you touched on obviously already about your leadership, and it seems like in a lot of ways it comes from a place of encouragement as well. And one of those things that was part of that was the pregame huddle and your speech. Just kind of talk about those little things that you do here and there that come from a place of encouragement to show your leadership on this team?
Yeah, it definitely comes from a place of encouragement. I forgot when I started doing that, but I've been doing it for like the past 5-6 years on every team that I go to. And I feel like that's the most important part of the game. After you come in the locker room, the coach talks to you, and then you got like a 5-minute little window to where you go in a little huddle. And I've been on a lot of teams where it's just, all right, guys, let's go out there and win 1, 2, 3. I'm just like, that's not motivating nobody. You know what I'm saying? For that, those people who need a little bit of motivation, let me add a little spice to it. So I started doing that, and I feel like it definitely helps with the energy of the guys, and even gets me going. So yeah.
JaVale, certainly the vision that you had when you joined this team, I imagine it looks a little different today. What feels just the most different from that moment joining the Kings to where you are here today, and just what does that do for you as you step into an offseason like this?
I mean, the only difference is we're not in the playoffs. In the beginning of the season, I was planning on us being in the playoffs and making a run. That's the only difference. It's the same team, same guys, same amount of energy. This is one thing about this team that I realized when I got here is, and especially with the young guys, is they work. They're very good guys. They're in here early. They're never rarely late. We had rare late moments. If we had late moments, it was more trying to get to the bus on the road. But nobody really showed up late to practice like that. A lot of professional young guys. It was very impressive to see the group that you guys put together here.
JaVale, your on-court chemistry with Malik was apparent right from the very beginning. I know a lot of guards who've been able to have that connection with bigs have gotten paid pretty well in this league and had good futures for themselves. I guess, can you speak to how valuable a player of his skill set is, not just from the big man perspective, but from a league-wide perspective?
Yeah, it's definitely valuable. A player that can score, a player that can get other guys involved, and a player that can have that confidence to go out there and shoot the ball with confidence. It's definitely important to have players like that, and also players like Malik who have that grit and will say anything to anybody. I feel like more teams need guys like that. For some reason, I feel like the league is weaning out guys who really speak their mind and say whatever they want. But I feel like every team needs a couple of guys on there who won't back down from anything or say whatever to whoever. Just because you have guys who won't say anything, they'll go out there and score 30, but they won't say anything. But that helps on the scoreboard. But it's so much more to basketball when it comes to intimidation, when it comes to looking at the other opponent. If I'm looking down the court and I see guys who can score 30, but I'm not afraid of them in any point, sometimes it doesn't work out how I think it's going to work.
You've been around a lot of stars in this league. From your perspective, what makes De'Aaron and Domas special, and how much higher can they reach?
I definitely think they can continue to grow and continue to get better. What makes them special is their consistency in their work and their focus on the game. They're extremely professional. They're extremely focused on building their physicality, their condition, and also their brand. And they're very particular on things that they do. And looking from the outside in, I can see it, and I can see why they're successful.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, JaVale.